Welcome to Gay Fairfax, the National Capital Area's only weekly gay cable magazine sharing news, views, and pride. I'm Barry Forbes.
And I'm Beth Goodman. Each week we'll feature events and personalities of interest to the gay women and men of the Washington metro area.
Do you enjoy occasional drink? Or perhaps you sip a glass of wine at dinner? Well, if you do, you're breaking Virginia state law. Homosexuals and the ABC liquor laws on this edition of Gay Fairfax.
Also in this edition, we'll meet Susan Donahue, chairperson of the Gay and Lesbian Education Fund. GLEF was founded to foster public awareness of the gay community and the people in it.
But first, with this week's gay trivia question, here's Peg McCraw.
One of the many myths or stereotypes about gay relationships is their relatively short nature. But many homosexual couples have spent the major part of their lives together. Can you name 4 historical couples, 2 female and 2 male, that had relationships lasting 30 years or more? The answer at the end of the show.
Thank you, Peg. The Virginia State Alcoholic Beverage Control Board, or ABC, held a series of town meetings open to the public. They encouraged comment on the current ABC regulations, including the law that prohibits serving alcohol to homosexuals in public establishments. Gay Fairfax attended one of those meetings.
You ever been served alcohol in Virginia? Have you ever worked where alcoholic beverages are served? If you have, and you're homosexual, you're not breaking the law, but the owner of the establishment is. According to the Virginia State Code, it is illegal for the owner of an establishment that serves alcohol to employ or serve known homosexuals, drug users, and persons of ill repute. Several members of the gay and lesbian community of Northern Virginia attended a town meeting held by the Virginia Alcoholic Beverage Control Board to express their views on this issue.
These laws are unenforceable. First of all, they're vague. How do you determine whether somebody is gay or lesbian? How do you determine what's a gathering? If I go with one person for a business lunch, I'm there. Is that a gathering? If a friend and I go for a business lunch with 3 or 4 other people, is that a gathering? Could somebody's license be revoked for that? We also believe that this is grossly unconstitutional under the right to assemble. The right to assemble in the Constitution doesn't say that gays can't assemble, but yet, this law prohibits us from gathering for a drink. It's also requires a gross violation of privacy. If somebody is going to have to interview every employee and ask about their sexual orientation or their habits or whatever before they're hired to work in a drinking establishment, that's a gross violation of privacy. If you have to be asked, are you gay or are you lesbian, before you go in to have a drink at a restaurant, that's a gross violation of privacy.
I represent Virginians for Justice, the statewide lobbying organization that you met with last fall with regard to the language in the statutes prohibiting the sale of alcohol to and employment of homosexuals. Mr. Fisher from Arlington County has spoken eloquently about the issues involved, but I would just like to reiterate that my statewide organization definitely supports the removal of this language from the statutes. We fully understand that it will take legislative action to support whatever you come up with, but we would like to work in concert with you and the legislature to ensure that this language is not contained in the new statutes that you propose.
Regarding the fact that these laws are rarely enforced, a lot of people have said, well, why worry about it? You'll probably never have them enforced against you, so on and so forth. Well, I could talk for a long time about why these repressive laws must be changed, even if they're rarely enforced. But let me make this point to the board members. How would you feel as individuals if some group that you belong to by birth or association or whatever reason, if some group that you belong to was banned from drinking at an establishment or working at an establishment? I'm sure you would be deeply offended by that and would do everything in your power to change that.
I spoke this morning with Police Chief Stover of the Arlington County Police Department, and I mentioned to him that I was coming here tonight, and he was shocked to find out that these laws were even on the books. He found them very unnecessary and very surprising to even think that this sort of thing would still be around in 1991. He said he was not even aware that it's ever been enforced in Arlington County and wouldn't expect that it would be. I spoke also recently to the Arlington County Ministerial Association. I spoke primarily on gays and religion and gays in the church. But the one item that I happened to mention almost as an aside in my discussion drew the most response and the most concern of anything, and that was the fact that gays and lesbians can't gather for a drink in Virginia. The ministers were, again, shocked, just like the police chief, surprised, and felt that that was a gross injustice. And so I would suggest that two very strong elements of our community see that this law is a complete folly.
I will briefly lend my support to the arguments having to do with the unconscionable vagueness of the regulations, the degree to which they impair the constitutional right to assemble. I would like to add just two other points. The first is that the inclusion of the term homosexual in a litany of terms such as prostitutes, drunks, and pimps, etc., these are all groups that historically have tended to be at the lower